What's going on YouTube? So about a month ago, we brought you guys a first look at a pre-production XT6, but now the real deal is already here. We've now got full information about pricing and equipment, and best of all, we are the first reviewers to take it out on the road and give it a full shakedown. Of course, we do want to thank our friends at Quantrell Cadillac for letting us take a look at their first XT6. And if you're in the market for any new Cadillac, be sure to stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that all said, let's see how the XT6 stacks up against the mountain of competitors. So getting started here with the exterior design. Obviously, it does feature the latest and greatest rendition of Cadillac's design language. The face actually looks a lot more like the upcoming CT5 sedan than the XT4, since it has separated headlights and a slender grille. This is the Premium Luxury version, so we have the silver finish across the grille and the lower elements, whereas on the Sport, all that would be blacked out. Now coming back to those headlights, they are fully LED as standard equipment, with low and high beams in the upper unit, and then the signature vertical light serving as both the daytime running light and the turn signal. The top part can be subbed out for a fancier multi-bulb arrangement if you prefer. Heading to the side, the XT6 measures in at 198.8 inches, which for reference is about 5 inches shy of the Escalade, and right in between the GMC Acadia and Chevy Traverse, which are two of its platform mates. As far as the styling itself, this Premium Luxury has chrome accents, which would be black on the Sport. But then coming around to the rear, both trims are pretty much the same. They'll have dual exhaust and the chrome accent across the back, which connects the L-shaped LED taillights that are similar to the ones in the CT6. The only difference you'll notice on the Sport is clear lenses instead of these red ones. But overall, Cadillac definitely did a good job with this exterior. In person, it is a very eye-catching design, and it stands out from some of the blander competition. Now, one aspect of the design I haven't mentioned are the wheels. Here, Cadillac has nicely included 20-inch alloys as standard equipment on both trims, these being the standard Premium Luxury wheels. There are tons of optional designs available, also 20 inches, but only the Sport has the ability to get 21s. Moving back to the mirrors, they have all the goodies as standard equipment, like heating, power folding, auto dimming on the driver's side, and blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert. And while we're on the topic of safety, the XT6 does have several more active safety features on board. Every model comes standard with automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, and auto high beam headlights. Additionally, the optional driver assist package adds in rear auto braking and adaptive cruise control. Just be aware that Super Cruise is not yet available. Finally, wrapping up the outside, the fuel tank is either 19 gallons with front-wheel drive or 22 with all-wheel drive. Now, since both versions do get the same combined fuel economy, the ranges vary from 380 miles to 440. And unlike a lot of the competition, premium fuel is not required. Well, that pretty much covers the brand new exterior. So now let's go ahead and check out the cabin where you and your family will be spending most of their time. So heading up to the all-new XT6, you do have Cadillac's smart entry system as standard equipment on every single trim, as well as remote start, which is a nice touch. The fob itself is very nice. Just like all typical Cadillacs, you have some real metal trim along the sides and kind of a leatherette texture on the front and the back. Now to get inside the vehicle itself, the handle does not have a sensor behind it, so you have to press the button. Alright, so checking out the cabin of the all-new 2020 XT6. As you can tell, it actually looks fairly familiar since it does share a lot of characteristics with the XT5, but there are plenty of differences as well. Now in regards to your color and material selections of the cabin, like all luxury cars, you have a bunch of them. So starting out with, all models come standard with leather, that's what we have. But if you go for the Platinum package, you're going to have semi-aniline leather. As far as your colors, on your Premium Luxury, that's going to come with jet black, Cirrus, or dark auburn, and each of those will come with their own unique wood trim. But if you go for the Sport, you have jet black and Cirrus color options. However, those will come with carbon fiber. Now, one of the interesting things about the way they designed this lineup is if you go for the Platinum package, no matter if you have the Premium Luxury or the Sport model, you have the same two color options for the cabin, and that's going to be jet black with the bronze carbon fiber trim. That's what we looked at with the preview unit about a month ago, or a maple sugar with an open pore fine line calico wood. Now turning over here to your door trim, it is very nicely appointed. You do have leather covering almost all of it. It is soft touch across the top here, and we do have our wood trim here on the Premium Luxury. Our door handle is fully aluminum, and we do have a nice aluminum speaker grille as well. Cadillac has included two-person memory seating as standard equipment across all models. And then as far as your windows, they are one-touch auto up and down for the driver and the passenger. Now coming here to your seats, they are 8-way power adjusting with 2-way lumbar support across all the trims. Now it is worth pointing out that there are no massaging abilities like there are on the XT4. As far as the seat itself, like I was saying, this is real leather, and it does feel very nice. I did get a chance to sample, like I said, a pre-production one about a month ago with the semi-aniline leather. Naturally that is a little bit softer, but this is still very nice. So checking out the cabin here for the first time, it definitely makes a good first impression. And then when you start touching things, the materials are also very high quality. Now it is important to point out there are some differences in the materials if you go for the Platinum model. If you choose the Platinum package on either of the trim levels, all of this upper dash as well as the top of the door trims will be replaced with real leather. However, on most of the models you're going to have this soft touch plastic. It is still very soft, and you have the same stitching details in those models. It goes all the way up to the windshield up there, and it is nicely padded through here as well. Dropping down here, we have a wood trim on the Premium Luxury, would be carbon fiber on the other trims, of course. We have some real aluminum trim through there, and then you kind of have a leatherette material that runs through pretty much all the rest of the dash. Now to start up the XT6, of course you do have standard push button start. And when you press it, you will see the standard 8-inch display fire up across all models. Alright, so checking out the gauges over here, there are two different setups you can get. We have the basic setup with a 4.2-inch multifunction display and then a separated info screen across the top there. Or you can get an 8-inch fully reconfigurable gauge cluster that comes in the enhanced technology package. But as far as this one here, it does contain the same types of information. You just use the little knob on the steering wheel here to scroll through all your different types of information, including for your safety systems. And then if you wanted a head-up display, that would also be in that same enhanced visibility and technology package. Now coming back to the steering wheel, it is electric power assisted. And the steering wheel itself is leather wrapped across all the trims. Whatever interior wood or carbon fiber you have will be on the steering wheel. And then as far as the buttons here, you do have real aluminum buttons along the bottom. You have your cruise control buttons. One of the things that's nicely included across the entire lineup of XT6s is a heated steering wheel, as well as power adjusting abilities. You will also find that rain sensing wipers are also included across the entire lineup. Now moving on to interior storage, as you'd expect from Cadillac's largest crossover, it does have plenty of space. So we'll start out with our center console here. You got a little removable tray. It is nicely felt lined, and once you get that out of the way, you can see the entire bin. This is also quite large with a really nice felt lining across the whole thing. And you also notice you have a USB Type-C and a regular USB port as well. I also want to point out, across the entire lineup of standard equipment, you have wireless phone charging. So what you do is just slide it into this little cubby here. This is the newest 15-watt setup, so it is quicker charging than in previous Cadillacs. And then you can shut this little lid here, you still have access to your phone. So that's a pretty nice setup. Moving on up here, we have some covered cup holders. Moving on, we've got a nice cubby up here, good for a cell phone. But the biggest thing is that the electronic shifter allows for us to have a gigantic pass-through here. Definitely good for sticking just about anything. And overall, it's a really quite impressive amount of storage inside this cabin. So like I was saying, a lot of that storage does come courtesy of using an electronic shifter. Now this is General Motors electronic shifter generation 2, and basically it just has simplified operation. So what you do is just push in on this little tab right here, pull back for drive, you pull back once more to activate the manual mode, where you can shift via the standard paddle shifters. They actually come on every single model, so that's a cool touch. But the big change here is the reverse. You're just going to push in and go all the way up to the front. Previously on the XT5 and some other General Motors vehicles, you had to go up and to the left, so this is definitely a lot easier to get used to. When we go into reverse here, we do have a standard backup camera, of course, with active trajectory as well as parking sensors. And then if you go for the enhanced visibility package, you will have a 360-degree camera system. And then for park, we're just going to press the P. Now moving on back behind the shifter, you'll notice that like the XT4, we now have the dash mounted knob that can control the CUE system in addition to the touchscreen. And unlike in the current 2019 XT5, we have a volume knob mounted down here. So standard on the XT6 is a 8-speaker Bose premium sound system. However, if you go for navigation, Cadillac throws in a premium 14-speaker Bose performance sound system, which is what we have. So let's go ahead and take a sample of that. Sound quality of this system is excellent, and it really has a very full sound. And then the last thing to look at over in this area is our mode button here. This controls our drive modes. So as you can see, we do have 3 different modes: a sport, touring, and a snow ice mode. Now heading on up the dash here, this is our standard 3-zone automatic climate control. As you can see, this actually has a pretty slick look because it looks like it's touch sensitive buttons, but actually these are physical buttons when you press them. So that makes the operation a lot simpler. You have these 3 metal toggles for the main functions that you'll be using, which is your temperature and fan adjustments right there. And then off to the side of that, you'll find standard 3-stage heated seats across every XT6. We also have 3-stage ventilation that comes via the comfort package. But anyways, that brings us here to the latest version of the Cadillac user interface. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. So what I'm going to start out with is our home screen here. As you can see, basically you have your applications populated right here. And then if you go over to the left, you have a basically a status display. And this kind of gives you a little preview of different sections that you can click straight into to check out. So we have our climate across the top, audio, phone, and navigation. So what you're looking at now is a much more responsive, much more detailed interface. As you saw, it was syncing in live traffic. That's one of the functionalities of the system. But basically this behaves a lot more like it does on a smartphone. So as you can see, we have 3D maps. We can use 3 fingers like on Google Maps to change the tilt here to whatever we desire. Now the next 2 things are some of the most important things to you guys, and that's your Apple CarPlay system and your Android Auto system. These are standard across every model with Cadillac CUE. Now moving on up here, we do have an auto dimming mirror. However, this would be replaced with the General Motors rear vision camera that switches to a camera so you can see straight to the back with no obstructions. If you go for that aforementioned enhanced visibility package. But regardless, you will have your 3 home link universal remotes right there. Now one of the really impressive standard features on the XT6 is that we have a standard panoramic moonroof. So as you can see, this is a lot of glass, goes all the way back past the rear passenger's head there. And of course, this front portion does open up. Goes back actually a really long ways, a lot more than most of the competition does. So you have really a lot of open air here. But overall, I have to say, I'm impressed by the cabin of the XT6. I was just in, like I said, the pre-production version about a month ago, and that one had the Platinum package and it was loaded up with all the goodies. And this one here comes in substantially less expensive at about $57,000. But I have to say, you're really not giving up much of anything. So while some recent Cadillacs may have taken a little flack for being a bit expensive, this one here definitely strikes me as a good value. So now I'll go ahead and hand it off to Mason. We'll check out the very important 2nd, 3rd row and the cargo space. So coming around to the 2nd row of the all-new 2020 Cadillac XT6, you are going to find a very large amount of space, especially for its class. You'll find 39.1 inches of rear legroom and 39.1 inches of rear headroom. Now, like I said, that is a little bit larger than some of its main rivals, like the Audi Q7 and Acura MDX. Now, coming over here to the door trim, it is really nice. So you do have a leather-wrapped armrest with stitching going all the way through there. It is padded leather above that, and even stitching on the upper portion. Down below that, you have a nice metal door handle, as well as these nice Bose metal speaker grills, and your window is power auto down. Now coming below that, we do have some door storage, and turning over to the seat itself, it is a very nice design. However, you will notice that this model has the optional $800 captain's chairs. Bench seating is available and standard on all of the models. Now here in the center, Cadillac has thrown in quite a bit of standard equipment on the XT6.
So you will notice that we do have standard climate controls, and they're very easy to operate. So all you have to do is push this button up to adjust the temperature, and then you also have the same adjustments for your fan speed as well. Now off to the side, you will notice that this model also has 3-stage heated rear seats, and that is included in the comfort package. Now down below that, you also have plenty of connections. So you have a regular USB port as well as a USB Type-C. And down below that, you have a little pop-out storage tray here with 2 cup holders inside, as well as, like I said, a pretty good sized storage bin. Now obviously, like I mentioned, this is the Captain's Chairs model. It's $800 option. And up top, we do have our beautiful standard panoramic moonroof. It really helps air out the cabin back here, and I really love this feature. And turning over to the side here, you do have some nice vents, and I do want to mention that there is an Alcantara headliner available in the Platinum package. And you do have an assist grip, some LED lighting, and a coat hook. Now as far as the space is concerned behind Drew's seating position, like I said, this is a little bit larger than most of the main rivals, so there is plenty of space. I have probably 8 to 9 inches of rear leg room, and my feet can easily slide up under the seat, and I'm overall very comfortable back here. So now let's go ahead and check out the third row, which is obviously the biggest feature about the Cadillac XT6. And they have made it pretty easy to get in here, so all you have to do is locate this little lever, and it will fold and slide the seat right out of the way. And looking back at the third row, you will notice that we have 29.5 inches of rear leg room, which is on par with most of the rivals like the Audi Q7 and MDX. So now let's go ahead and get back there and see what it's like. So sitting back here, my first impression is that it is a little bit cramped in terms of space, like most in the class, but that is worth noting that this seat is scooted all the way back, and you can slide it forward to give the third row more leg room. And my feet do have a spot to go, which is it's good. However, there is a little bit of thigh support. It's lacking a little bit back here, but that's pretty much expected for the class. Now, in terms of features, you do have a cup holder, as well as a smart charging Type-C USB port. And up top, you have some more LED lighting, as well as your own climate vents. But overall, this is a pretty nice place to spend time. It's pretty class competitive. It's not the nicest third row in the class, but it is also not the worst. Now coming around to the tailgate of the XT6, it is hands-free power across all the trims. So all you have to do is locate the little Cadillac emblem on the left side and wave your foot under the bumper to open. And once you get inside the XT6's trunk, you are going to be very pleasantly surprised with the amount of space. You'll find 13 cubic feet behind the third row seats. If you fold them, it expands to 43 cubic feet. And if you fold all 3 rows, you will find that there's 79 cubic feet. Now, like I said, that is actually bigger, significantly larger than the Acura MDX, as well as the Audi Q7. Now, as far as how Cadillac finishes it back here, I'm also very impressed with the finishes. So you do have a nice carpeted floorboard, and up underneath the floor, you have plenty more space. So you have probably an additional, I don't know, few cubic feet of space back here. As you can tell, we fit a full-length tripod up underneath the floor, so this is a great place to hide some stuff that you don't want seen. And off to the side, you have another little storage cubby. Now, as far as how to fold the seats themselves, Cadillac has made it really easy. So you do have a standard power folding third row, which is a really nice touch. So in order to fold them, just push these buttons, and they do fold right down. You can also remotely fold the second row as well. And as you can tell, there is a ton of space back here. You could definitely fit like a mattress or something really large. And it is really nice that Cadillac has given you the power folding ability standard across all of the models. Now coming over to the passenger seat, it is power adjusting standard. It actually looks to be quite a few ways, probably 12-way adjusting. And in front of the passenger, you do have a nicely sized glove box. It's felt lined inside, as well as illuminated. And I do want to point out, it's even covered in soft edge plastic. Up top, we have a nice sun visor with gently fading in LED lights and a mirror. And it does also detach and extend. Well guys, that sums up all of the rear areas of this all-new XT6. So now let's go ahead and get out on the road and see how that engine performs.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk a bit about the powertrain. Now there is only one option for every XT6. It's a similar setup to its other General Motors vehicles that ride on the same platform. It's a 3.6 liter V6, producing 310 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque. That is exactly the same as the XT5 and very similar to most of the competition. As far as your transmission, you're looking at a 9-speed automatic that's up 1 gear from the 2019 XT5. And then on your Premium Luxury, that's going to be paired to either front-wheel drive, which is what we have here, or an optional all-wheel drive system. Now if you go for the Sport trim, that's going to come standard with all-wheel drive, but it's a different all-wheel drive system. It is the active twin-clutch all-wheel drive system. Finally, for your fuel economy, you will pay a bit of a penalty versus the XT5 for that extra size. So with front-wheel drive, you're rated at 18 city, 25 highway, 20 combined. And with all-wheel drive, you keep the same 20 combined, but the city and highway drop by 1 each to 17 and 24. For reference, that's going to be 3 mpg behind the MDX and 2 behind the XT5. But anyways, let's go ahead and take this out on the road and see how nice it rides. So first taking off here in the Cadillac XT6. Power initially feels very good actually. I was a little concerned because the Cadillac XT5, back when we drove that, it felt pretty slow to me. But just initially taking off, this feels faster, despite having this the same powertrain. Maybe that has something to do with the 9-speed instead of the 8-speed, different tuning. But just initially here, my impression is that this feels like it has more power. It feels a lot quicker on its feet. Yeah, definitely. Actually, the throttle response is tuned pretty aggressively. Right now we're in the standard touring mode, which is the normal mode of this vehicle. And you know, a lot of cars in this class, they tune the throttle to be rather insensitive for fuel economy purposes and for cruising around. But this actually, you know, just when you start to nudge into it, you get a pretty good response just right off the line. It feels more lively than a lot of the competition for sure.
You know, and another thing that I'm kind of noticing from this compared to the XT5, I think that the engine has been tuned to be a little quieter in this version. When he accelerates, it's not like super loud and a bunch of noise penetrating into the cabin. It's a very, you know, refined sounding engine. And that's very good in this type of class because, I mean, it's supposed to be tuned for comfort and for luxury, and this has done a really good job so far.
Now we do have an auto start-stop system here on the XT6. It's pretty hot. We have the AC on, so it may not turn off during the course of this drive, but I did want to just go ahead and point it out anyways. And specifically that you have a button here to turn it on and off. That's different than a lot of General Motors vehicles over the last few years, including the XT5, which just had it on permanently, so you can just take it off if it's something that bothers you. Yeah, like Mason said, that's really, that's kind of the biggest thing that I'm surprised by and impressed by is just how different this feels. The same powertrain feels in different types of General Motors vehicles. This is definitely a step up in refinement from the Acadia, from even the XT5 as well. And all the Traverse. They definitely put a lot more effort into making it feel upscale to match that this is a more upscale vehicle. You know, I was a little concerned about that if it would be just exactly the same, and I'm happy to report it's not. It's definitely improved in this application.
And going along with that, the XT6 is one of those crossovers that, you know, it has to be super comfortable. And just kind of cruising down the road here, you can tell that this car has been tuned to be extremely comfortable. And this is really just a great package overall. I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit of a downgrade from some of the German rivals, but I can tell you that this car actually handles it very good. And, you know, it's very comfortable inside here. When you hit a bump, you don't feel it.
Now, as far as the 9-speed automatic transmission, it is fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of cars you say you can't feel it. You can usually still feel the transmission a little bit, but in this, I really mean that I cannot feel the shifts. You just hear an audible switch, but there is no sensation of shifting gears at all. I mean, can you tell, Mason?
No, I mean, there's actually zero.
It's actually zero sensation of a shift. It is that smooth. Just absolutely like butter. Yeah, for such a big vehicle, it actually feels pretty light on its feet.
Very
gets up to speed quickly. Now, as far as the steering is concerned, it is just about what I would expect for a crossover in this class. It's not German sporty, so it's not like the X7 or the Q7. But especially here in the touring mode, it has a pleasant firmness. It's still light, so it's easy to maneuver this. To me, it feels a lot smaller than it is. Like I said, it's light on its feet. But the steering also does a really, really good job of communicating exactly what I need to know, so that I feel like I know exactly where to place this vehicle. It doesn't feel like I'm driving a bus like in some of the competition. I don't know if we have had time quite to discuss the how quiet it is in the cabin, but it is Cadillac quiet. Of course, as you'd expect, Cadillac and like Lexus, known for having a smooth ride, a quiet cabin. and this definitely lives up to that.
Just hit a bump there, barely feel it. And also it is worth mentioning that on the Sport XT6 you are going to get adaptive dampers as well. This particular model is a Premium Luxury, so it doesn't have it, but it is available on the Sport.
That's right. But overall, I think the best way to conclude really is just to talk about that balance and the way that everything works together. In this class, things can go too much one way or too much the other. You know, when you have a family crossover and certain brands try to emphasize sport too much, you know, that's kind of silly. It's a big crossover.
It defeats its main mission.
It defeats its main mission, that's right. But at the same time, even more common is just being loosey-goosey, not paying any attention to dynamics, or having something that is desirable and decent to drive. And what has really struck me is not to say, like, let's just say this is a vehicle that feels totally different than, now that I'm driving it, than what the specs speak about. When I first saw it, you see those specs, you think, okay, I've been here, done that. I've been in a GMC Acadia, I've been in a Chevy Traverse. You know, but this here is really its own animal, and it's something that you should definitely come out and experience in person. It's not like any of the other General Motors crossovers in the way that it drives, it makes a really appealing driving impression, especially compared to, you know, the competition.
And now let's talk a little bit about the XT6 pricing. So this actually follows Cadillac's new Y trim level pricing structure. So you're going to have your luxury side of things as well as your sport side of things that cost roughly equivalent prices. So we have the Premium Luxury, and that's going to start out a little bit cheaper because it is available in front wheel drive. So that's going to start at $54,695. If you opt for the Sport model with standard all-wheel drive, that's going to be $57,095. And as far as how this particular XT6 is equipped, this is on the base end, so we do have just a few options. We have this beautiful optional red paint for $1,225, optional navigation for $1,000, captain's chairs for $800, and the comfort package for $750. And then when you add in the destination charge of $995, this particular model as equipped comes in at $57,465. Which I have to admit is a very attractive price point for a nice vehicle like this. This is right in line with like an Acura MDX Advance, maybe a fully loaded RX, and it comes in quite a bit cheaper than a lot of the German rivals like the Audi Q7. Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching the first in-depth look at the 2020 Cadillac XT6. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.